Tell us your story.
Well, I guess my story starts in the womb. And I came out of that womb and I was a product of love from both parents. When I would go to school, I'd be not wanting to speak. I would hide under my mom's dress. Eventually, my first grade teacher would give me a play, and I learned to get away from.
It does a really great job divulging into the protests following George Floyd's murder back in 2020 and the height of the Black Lives Matter movement. I think it does a really great job presenting each of these talking heads and these interviewees in this piece and representing their different points of view, but the commonality of them all wanting to come together to find unity and find peace and find a solution moving forward. I think the flow of this documentary was really great. It was all very purposeful. It was factual as well as appealing to the emotional aspect of humanity in a large way through what's going on in this.
Under the main title, the film reads, "Not So Black and White," saying that I really appreciate the filmmaker working hard to allow the participants to share their stories and different perspectives, notably a former police officer and an activist. The film does an excellent job collecting and showing footage around the George Floyd tragedy and other protests. Both of the main participants have fascinating stories about their lives and passions. It was so good to see the camaraderie between the main figures and the director, all hoping for an America that can thrive and find common ground. Excellent camera work, pertinent titles, and great direction.
Allows different sides to speak with each other and hear each other's voices and thoughts in a meaningful way, and come to surprisingly similar conclusions, which, when you really look at it, is things need to get better. I mean, that's something I think so many of us, if we really were to put down so much of our hate and division, could come to agree with, that things need to get better. And I almost wish that we could see even further this conversation between these two young men to see the solutions that they might have to offer. But I really enjoyed and was moved by their conversation and their individual journeys that led them to one another.
Super relevant to today, current events, who we are and where we stand politically, as far as social activism and human rights movements. This dives into the Black Lives Matter movement. This dives into George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, many, many, many others that have fallen into, an untimely demise due to police brutality. And it's so interesting to see these two different outlooks. We see this gentleman, this activist, who is, putting himself out on the line and trying to create systemic change. And then we see on the other side of the spectrum someone who has grown up with his family being on a certain side of the law. And he himself also trying to join the police force and making these steps to want to serve and protect. Yet when it boils down to it, he isn't fully accepted into this community he fought so hard to be a part of. And it's interesting to see how here are these two people trying to serve their communities the best that they can. And so you get to see these two different perspectives of these two different ways of life. And I think they kind of do go hand in hand in showing two sides to this movement.
The fact that the documentarian came together and was actually seeking answers from both sides is amazing, because he saw the contention over the summer George Floyd died, and he wanted to see both sides. It does have a lot of promise and is doing what we actually need to do in the United States, is sit down and actually have conversations with each other to figure out what is going wrong and how we can come back together as a solid country. And this documentary started that discussion, and I think that makes it a great film because that's what they should do.
Even though the topic is sad and filled with emotion, it's a really important issue. It manages to talk about why it's important and also kind of rouse the audience to take action and join the movement. And I think it's really cool how it manages to do that within the space of the documentary and how it visually plays with different images and voiceovers and perspectives, and it makes for a really compelling piece.